Thank you for joining me today on the Garbage Bag Girl podcast. This podcast is about all of us. It's about the things and the ways that make us feel pushed down and small. It is about how the smallest acts of kindness make the biggest impact each day. No one should feel like garbage, ever. Enjoy the show. Hi, welcome to the Garbage Bag Girl podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know I always say I have favorite people, but listen, this is serious because today, and people have been anticipating this when I've told them, I swear I'm going to interview her. She said yes. I have questions. We have Kristin Andrus. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
You're the best.
I'm so happy to be here.
When you know how busy you are, there's an extra layer of appreciation that comes with people that are very big influencers in our community. And I don't mean that just from like, I'm a social media influencer. I mean influencer in the way that you affect people's lives. And, I typically get emotional, so it's okay. But how I met you is kind of where I wanted to start because your name was always floating around in the nonprofit world. Have you gone to a Building Bridges event? How come you haven't been to a Building Bridge? Have you met Kristin Andrus? I'm like, I'm getting to it, people. And then Julia from my office went to one of your Building Bridges events and came to the office then following Monday, losing her mind that, oh my gosh, Celeste, for real, you got to meet her. Like, stop messing around. She's the most amazing person, all the things. So we started kind of making arrangements, trying to get on the calendar, all those details. And my programs manager, another Kristin, posted a fundraiser on the Christmas Box House Instagram page. We thought, we'll just try the Instagram fundraising thing. Had never done it. We'll raise a few $1,000s because we need a new playground. And you got a hold of it. And you saw it.
Yeah.
And holy heck. You did the thing you do. You shared. You came on site and did a video at the place. She's like, did you know she's coming to the house to do a video? Sure she is. You did a great video, and all of a sudden there were so many people reaching out. Our little cute efforts of, we raised a few $100s, you're welcome. But it was nothing in comparison to having the network that you have and the trust, which is so critically important. And you raised $23,000.
Yeah.
I believe $23,000 for us, which is just, and it was like a week and a half. And then she says,
well, it would have been 33,000, right? Because we got 10.
Oh, you're 10, community 10, and the grant.
Community 10 and the grant for 10.
33,000. You're welcome, Celeste.
That is collective impact.
It is collective impact.
Yeah.
And it didn't even stop there. Like, that would have been enough. We would have taken whatever we got. But you said, what else can we do? Because we all know in the nonprofit sector, people like it to also be tangible. Yep. So you posted again, you rallied with your friends and family as you do and the community. And we had about 86 people show up and weed the entire 15,000 square foot parameter of the Salt Lake shelter. And oh my gosh, all the weeds were gone. It was so beautiful in an hour and a half. And I discovered grilled donuts.
Yeah.
Didn't know it was a thing. So then I decide maybe I really should figure out who she is because dang. So I go onto your Instagram page and it's interesting because it says community activator. And then all of a sudden I'm like going through your posts. Oh, let's add mother, wife, women's empowerment advocator. I made that up. Faith.
Yeah.
It's a big part of your life.
Yeah.
You're a friend. You're a child advocate. I know I'm missing some things, but it was just this very beautiful, robust, who you are representation that I love that you show a little bit of all of who you are. Mm-hmm. So now I'm so curious, and it is one of the questions people have asked me is, how did you even get into it? Like, what made you decide this is the trajectory of my life? These are the things I'm going to be passionate about. Like, how'd you get into it?
Yeah. And I do want to go back to all the touches that made the playground possible, right? Because that all matters, I think. The first time I can trace it back to, one, I would say that my mom was always involved in the community. So seeing a model of someone who showed up and gave back and signed up and showed up consistently, she, didn't have to work. And so she volunteered quite a bit, which was neat to see. And she was always looking out for those that needed help, needed love. And she did it in small ways and big ways. But I definitely saw that growing up. I remember being in college. I came from California to the University of Utah. And I just thought, I need to do something. And so I became a big sister. And it, to be honest, wasn't the most comfortable situation. It was a mother-daughter relationship. It was very odd. I felt terrible for this girl. The mom was very difficult, but I kept going back, even though I kind of had that pit in my stomach, because it was committed. This girl needs me. So I continued to kind of just do little things and felt like that was a part of, where much is given, much is required. But really the turning point, I would say, came later. I owned a Curves fitness studio at the time, and I had a couple of my kids with me in Sugar House, and we went to McDonald's, and a lot of us will like pay for the person behind us or whatever.
Yep.
We think we're check the box, we're a good citizen.
Yep.
And so we paid. So there was a mother and her son behind us, and I could tell that they were trying to figure out how to pay for whatever little food that they were trying to get. So I said, I would love to pay for you guys behind me. Oh, don't worry about it. And no, I want to. But then the difference, and what I think really led to the difference in my life, is that I decided and asked to get more proximate and said, can we actually eat with you? And can we get to know you? And they became human, right? Yeah. Not like a little service project or something that made me feel good. But we got to know their names, and we sat and we ate with them. And my kids were a part of that, which is always really important to me. And so that was kind of this philanthropy, because philanthropy is whatever we have at our fingertips to change the world, not money. It got personal. And I feel like once philanthropy, charity work, service, like whatever you want to call it, giving back, once it becomes personal, that's when you can't unsee it. You can't stop. You keep going. You feel propelled to do more. And so we could pay for people all day long, but when we sit in their story and get to know their names, like it becomes personal and you want to keep doing it. So then Jeremy and I had a couple of different outcomes. We sold, let's see what happened. It doesn't matter. We had a couple of different outcomes with businesses where it's kind of that like, we've made it moment, right? Like what the world would say, you did it. Like you got there.
And you're like, we're just getting started.
Well, and it was also like so interesting because when I speak a lot, I talk about the journey being the destination. That in the way the world sees, like we've been there, and you wake up the next day and the kids are still fighting and there's so much laundry, and the next mountain that you have to climb is so much steeper and harder than the one that you just made it to. And so life truly is only the journey,
I
not
think
the
people
destination.
underestimate as you hit milestones the responsibility that comes with them, because but when you get, more responsibility comes in, especially if you want to give, then more responsibility comes to that. People are knocking on your door every day. It will bring me to another question later, but it really is. You made the statement earlier about responsibility. And I can't remember what you said. The more,
where much is given, much is required. Yeah.
Tell them again.
Where much is given, much is required. I think it's from the Bible, not Kristin Andrus, but I'll take that quote.
It's a good reiteration though, because the word responsibility is always really critical to me. There's a heightened level of responsibility that comes with every action and choice that you have.
Can I take notes?
It's like a level.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah. That's exactly right.
So keep going on your journey.
So we had one particular outcome that was big, and I was on a spin bike, and I've told this before, but I was on a spin bike in a class, and you're kind of waiting for that transaction to close, and it always takes longer, and you never know if it's actually going to happen. And it did. And I remember Jeremy texted me, that's my husband, and said, transaction completed.
A business close.
Yeah. Yep. A life-changing one.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, this is going to be like, oh, I'm so happy this happened. And it's exactly what you just said. The weight of it came so crashing down on me.
It's heavy.
It was so heavy, and I just bawled my eyes out. And and everyone's like, are you okay? And I'm like, actually, this is great news. But the responsibility of it, I had no idea I was going to feel that. And so I called him after we were done and I said, we have to go do something. We have to go give back. So we got our kids out of school. They were little at the time. And we went down to the VOA, Youth Resource Center.
Love the VOA.
And we brought food. And it was like, this is the path. Like, we didn't buy a new car. We didn't ever buy a boat. We're not consumers. We don't like to consume. To me, it's more stress. And so I never bought a pair. I've never owned a pair of high-end shoes or purses or name brand. I just, and so it was just like, we're going to take the path less traveled. And it truly has made all the difference. And it has been so fulfilling and rich and grounding that to me, it was like, what other choice do we have? Like, to go buy stuff? That sounds terribly boring. Yeah. And by the way, the life of trying to give back and fill gaps and, bring people together and, connect and all of that is not boring. And
it's
so
not boring.
I love it. I will say I get more out of what I do than anyone I try to quote unquote help or lift. Yeah. Absolutely. I need them more than they need me.
I always say that I appreciate that, because I always say with any gift you decide to give, and that can be being a foster parent. We know we're never really going to have enough of them. I talk about this all the time. Yeah. I'm very passionate about the foster care system, but no matter what we do, what we're sharing, the people, you always say, invite somebody. Who are you inviting on Sundays?
Yeah.
Really the return you get is far greater than what you give. And I think then it's a constant fill your cup reminder why you do it. Because in between each event, each transaction, each gift, there are moments of the structure of what has to happen to get there. And that's the tiring part, right? That's the weighty, the logistical part, that I have to get all that done. And then the moment you're there and you're on and the gift is there and you're turning it on with the people, like, that's right. Thank you so much, God, or whoever you believe in. Thank you for the reminder of the gift back to myself.
I love that.
And it just kind of keeps going. So I love it. I know that you have a gazillion projects. I only wrote down like a few of them because I was like, she has events and things, and you have the Gather for Impact event. You have, I call it Gather Around the Table, but you might have a technical term for it. Because you cook. You have the cookbook stuff. Yeah. You have because you really believe in, as do I, that we gather around a table to eat. It's one thing to just hurry and grab. Yeah. Sometimes we have to stop, slow down. Yes. Actually spend a minute with each other, turn the cell phones off. Yes. Remember, we love each other again. You have Policy Project, Building Bridges, the Case Studies podcast. Yeah. What am I missing? There's a lot.
This is interesting. I have a lot of nonprofits or different organizations that have asked me to be on their board or to take on something like that. And
I wouldn't dare ask you to be on my board.
A couple of years ago, I dropped all of my boards. And I said, I'm actually not a good board member. For me to come once a quarter and sit in a meeting with a bunch of people, like, I end up busy. I end up missing it. I am perfect at special projects. And so what I have said to nonprofits just like you, which hopefully that was one, the playground, is if I'm a board member, I'm going to be average, because that's just not where my strengths are. It's not where I'm using my megaphone, my spotlight, all of those things.
And they want you to commit to them. That's part of being a board member.
Right. And raising money. And so I'll do capital campaigns. I'll come in on a project around a playground or a gala. But I do spread myself out because I can't stay with one nonprofit forever. And so I really try to use my megaphone and use my spotlight, and then bring people. One of the things I talk about a lot is bringing people along with me. So I hope that when I bring families to the Christmas Box House, that there are families that come back, right? I'm not going to be there for 20 years talking about highlighting it year after year after year after year after year. I want to tell everybody about it, and then there's going to be some that hang on and hold on, just like I've been brought into different nonprofits.
Because it resonates with them.
Because it resonates with them.
We just had a gal who reached out in your friends and family network and said, I came to help with the weeding and I homeschool and I really want my kids to have an impact on nonprofit. Is there something we can come back and do? We don't traditionally work a lot with the little kids. It's because of the sensitivities to our program. But we did figure out a way
That's awesome.
to make that work. And like 25 of them ended up showing up and having all the kid potty breaks and all the things.
Right,
but in
right.
between, you know, they were able to pull some weeds. Help do a couple things at the shelter, but they were somebody that came back from that.
Exactly. And that is what my hope
Yeah.
is. So what I try to do is find gaps. Building Bridges is a perfect example where you've had some of your team there, where I just noticed that as I'm kind of an interesting person in the community because I'm a donor. We have a family foundation, but then I'm also kind of a boots on the ground activator. And so not only am I bringing volunteers and trying to get women and families to get outside of their bubble and go and serve and come back and all of that stuff, I'm also making donations and things like that. So what I found, I looked around and I thought everybody's coming at me for everything, but they don't know each other. Yeah. So there are bikes for refugees. There are computers for, like this all exists. They just need to get in the same room.
Yes.
And so that I truly felt inspired that I need to be the convener. Yep. And so it's been going for years now. And there have been miracles
It's so good.
brought about by nonprofits just coming together. Yep. And what I will say, and I acknowledge this because I think it's easy for me to say, oh, I just do this and it's so easy. And someone to say, I can't do that. When I hosted this women's event where I'm finding a gap, that women right now have at a certain stage have a little bit of extra time. Either their kids are in school or their kids are leaving the home. They're a little bit lonely. They're feeling some anxiety. They don't know what's next. Yeah. So I bring them together. And what I will say about that makes me a little bit different and it is a privilege is that when I bring people together, there are never strings attached. I have a space that I can hold you at. I have food that I can feed you with. I'm never going to charge. I'm never going to sell something. And that is a privilege. Most people that are going to do that, there needs to be a transaction because that's just the way that the world works. Yeah. And so it is a privilege to have a space big enough to fit 300 people and 250 nonprofits and to be able to do that. And so not everyone can do that, but people can come and partake and be a part of it. And so I think that's what has made it a very authentic, trusting place is that they know that there's truly no strings attached ever. I love that. And I feel grateful for that because that's not reasonable for most people.
It isn't. And also from the nonprofit side, you can't always attend everything like that.
Right.
It's maybe not in the budget, or you have certain events that year you're going to attend, or which team members are you going to send? You don't always have the opportunity to participate in all the free. Every time we go to register through, I think it's Eventbrite, but I always forget that it's not going to cost. I get my card out, I'm ready to log on, and every time it says zero cost, and I'm like, oh, I forgot she does this. Yeah. How many of you can go? Like, it's so great.
Yeah, everyone.
That we get to do
hope. Yeah,
because part of our one of our main 4 programs is our partner share, because I believe that. Well, one, Utah's one of the most philanthropic states in the nation. We have about 10,600-ish nonprofits, and it can make it competitive.
Yes.
And so for us, we process about almost $800,000 a year in in-kind donations. Amazing. This is our donation center location. And we know we resource to the Christmas box houses first, and we resource to our resource rooms next. But the third thing we do is we open our doors twice a year to a partner share here, and that's fall and spring. And we lay out all the tables and all the donations that we're not going to store for the next 8 months. There's a shelf life that has to happen with things needing to get to families.
Right, wow.
And if we're not going to use them at those 2 programs I mentioned, then we want other nonprofits to have them. And what happens is, so we have about 100 nonprofit partnerships now.
That's amazing.
We've more than doubled in the last 2.5 years. Wow. And we find, because, nonprofit's finicky business.
Yes.
So I make the joke to my programs manager over the holidays, hey, don't worry, if we get 700 Barbies, we'll find a home for 700 Barbies. Well, we get like 600 and some change. And she's like, why you throw that out there? What do we do with 700 Barbies, Celeste? We open our doors, because oddly we don't get like a size 13 boy jean.
Right.
Is an example, right?
Yep.
Much more critical in the scope of things.
Yes.
But we're there at the partner share, and we have another nonprofit who says, "Oh, you don't have boy jeans," kind of like you're saying.
Yeah.
You know what? Why don't we take these Barbies? We have a lot of families right now that
Yeah.
they're trying to gift for their girls. This is going to be so great. They take what they need. They call us later, show up and deliver what we need. And it's just about the synergy.
Yes.
And the level of, we all have different mission statements, but we're still serving and tapping into almost the same populations. There's an underserved population. And I think of all those nonprofits that come to the Building Bridges, and they're such friends and family now in the nonprofit world. And I'm sure you feel that way.
Absolutely.
It's like everyone's on first name basis.
Yes. It's
Everybody's
amazing.
like,
I love that you do that.
It's so meaningful for me.
That's incredible. And most don't do that. So
well, there's a lot of work
huge.
when we talk about the effort.
Yeah.
It is one of our programs because the effort involved in planning them.
Yeah.
We're also very fortunate to have a donation center. A lot of nonprofits can't have that. We can store things through the year, but it is about deciding what matters most and first. And for me,
quote that. That is like
our little Kristin
wish
quotables.
I had a piece of paper. That is yes.
For me, it is what matters most and first, because the team will bring a lot of projects to the table.
Yeah,
and they're like, "How do we choose?" Okay, let's go back to the core of the mission.
Yeah,
and I think it surprises people that if you've read my book, you might learn that there were a lot of agencies that didn't do well for me. Every one of them are strategically a partner of the Christmas Box International because I don't believe it's about organizations not wanting to help. I believe it's about lack of resources.
Yeah.
It's about the gaps we talk about in the system. And you feel that so beautifully. I mean, if people aren't texting you a million times a day, thank you, they should.
Oh, that's nice.
Because I know it's meaningful for you. I know it's meaningful for you. But the reality is, there are a lot of things you can do with money and influence. There really are. Yeah. Especially now. There's so much you can do.
Right.
And you still choose it. You still choose to do this every day.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
I just think you're extra special.
Oh, I'm not. I feel excited about doing it. I enjoy it. I'm not waking up begrudgingly. It's exciting to me. Yeah. There is no richer life than trying. And I would say I just throw stuff out to the universe. I don't know what's going to... Building Bridges could have been a total failure and I move on. There's things I do that don't go great. But to me, it's like just what is the next best thing to do? And I do that. And I'm a little scattered all over the place. And there's a lot I don't do, by the way. There's a lot I don't do.
Well, sure.
Right? There's a lot I have to say no to.
Someone asked me to ask you, how do you choose? That's a big question.
I swear it chooses me a little bit. I talk a lot about sticky service. I think timing is also really important. I think of the playground. So I was supposed to come and visit you and I had something come up and I felt like a total flake, and then something else happened. I met her at Building Bridges, and then all of a sudden I saw like there were a number of touches that had to probably happen. I started following you on social media, and then I saw the playground thing, and it was like,
you're like, okay,
this I can do.
Yeah.
I was feeling like I wanted to rally the troops online. I wanted to find something that we could find collective action around. So it was the right time, the right space. I had enough understanding of what you guys did. I think we had a conversation that day or a couple of days later. I remember where I was exactly. And I just thought, using my strengths, right, to like, I can raise money. This is something that probably speaks to my people because my people online have kids. Yep. And it all just like, it all came together so beautifully. And I almost thought like, what if I had gone a month ago and I don't know, like, but it was still top of mind that I wanted that interaction. Now, let's say that someone's like, come out and visit the Great Salt Lake, and you need to spend the next year of your life making sure that the Great Salt Lake stays healthy and great and whatever the problem is there. Like, it's not going to be for me. It's not where I want to spend my time. I'm not going to keep...
You know what? There's a group that probably...
exactly. Like, go talk to them.
Because that's part of it, is you learn to meet other people.
Yeah, it's not for me. And so I think it's the right time. There are so many people that will come to me for help, and I'm like, this is amazing you're doing this. Please go keep doing what you're doing, but it's not my specialty. I don't think I'm going to be the one that's going to carry this forward. But timing and passion. And I feel like if I don't have like an ultimate passion for something, I'm just not going to be good at it. Yeah. And in the end, we'll be doing a disservice to both of us because I'm taking time away from something that I do that I know I can make impact. I know I can. Yep. But then there's things that I just don't feel like are probably I'm best for. So I'm always sacrificing something, right? It's just constantly.
It's kind of part of it. Mm-hmm. Well, I think if you don't have passion, then it's forced.
Yes.
And if you feel it, if you feel like you're forcing anything, it's not right.
It's not right.
The universe isn't calling you to do that right now. Maybe later.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes I say, I'm not a no girl, I'm a not now.
Yeah.
And I'm a redirect.
Yeah.
I think I know enough resources to get you where you need to go.
Yeah.
So I imagine there's a lot of that. Let me redirect you to, an organization that I think would be such a good fit.
Totally.
For you. There's a lot of those kind of conversations because as you grow your network base, right? You grow your network base, which means you know more people, which means you get to send people to someone.
Right.
And I think that that's beautiful too, because I always tell people, if you can't donate time, money, or in-kind items, just share a post.
Absolutely.
You know what? Just click share on your post.
So true.
That's so meaningful for us.
It is so meaningful.
And everyone can at least do that.
Yes.
And that's okay.
Yes.
That touches my heart. I did want to ask you about the policy project is super interesting to me because when people ask me, I'm so specific to child welfare, but when people ask me, what do you think we can do in the community to make a difference? I always say there's policy, there's community, and there's home. Yeah. There's those three major impact areas, in my opinion, that we get to all make a difference in. Yes. And policy's tough.
Yes.
For me, being raised in child welfare and the foster care system in the early 80s, I get this great view of what has changed and what hasn't. Mm-hmm. And there's about a 10-year period. It takes about a decade, it seems, to make kind of a solid, I'm staying policy change. But then there are some that have great impact very quickly. And we were talking offline that sometimes you have to force the hand a little.
Yeah.
And do you mind sharing about the big announcement policy project?
Yeah. So today,
I love this. It would have been so good for me.
We just launched our 25 initiatives, and it's the first time that we've taken on 2 separate bills. But it's called the Focused Student Project. And that is because both of them are going to help students focus better. And we don't believe that the government is the answer for everything, but we believe coming in with a public-private partnership, the legislature can help some of these things. We have incredible partners in the legislature. We are grateful to know legislative leadership. So what I'll say is we're not generally coming out with some rogue idea and saying we're going to do this whether we like it or not.
Let's give it a shot and see if it lands.
Right. There's normally a lot of conversations for months and months and months leading up to the projects we work on. So that, and by the way, they're always compromises. Yeah. What we want to do, we end up compromising, finding a really good solid ground that everybody can kind of agree on. At least a group of us between the legislature and the policy project, and then go forward with it. So we're really excited to work on smartphones in schools. So right now the standard is that free cell phones allowed all the time everywhere in schools. And so the bill would flip the standard upside down, that the statewide policy would be that no, it's not cell phones, it's smartphones are allowed in schools with local control. So meaning every school district or LEA and school can decide what that looks like for them. Because we would never do this mandate that says this is the way it has to look, because we know rural Utah is different than suburban Utah, is different than southern Utah. And elementary schools are different than high schools. We're also very concerned and running some focus groups on vulnerable families, single moms. What does this look like if a child doesn't have access to their cell phone, if they're helping babysit their kids, other populations who are maybe getting bullied. And so we're very, very aware.
You have to check on your elderly grandma at home because your mom works.
Exactly. So we're very aware. Social and emotional, or physical health issues. So there are exceptions. And we also realize that it's going to look different in every school district. Granger, high school not far from here, is doing bell to bell. They turn in their cell phone in a little pouch when they get there, and they don't have it all day. It's going extremely well.
I love the bell to bell.
Yeah, we've talked to kids there.
There's a check-in moment. Yeah, that's fair.
And you know what? And there's school safety standards in place. Anyways, what I feel like this has to happen because we have to disrupt the trajectory that I'm on with, right? Even as adults, we have such a hard time with our phones.
We remember a time without them.
Absolutely.
Unique difference
Very
to
much.
the kids now that have at 4 years old, the screen is the first thing. My grandson, age 5, we finally made a decision, no screen time at all for you for a while, buddy. You stopped playing.
Yeah.
You stopped being that fun little boy because all of a sudden it was, how quick can I get to the video game? Well, we allowed that as a family.
Right.
All of us are part of that. And realized, wow, let's come to a halt and then reevaluate what that's going to look like, because pretty soon it was, no, Grandma, I don't want to go do that. I want to do this. Totally. I'm like, oh, buddy, where did we go wrong?
Yeah.
Now's a good time to go ahead and stop that.
Absolutely.
And I don't think that, all families recognize the same. And I get that moms are busy and it's used as babysitters.
It is.
I get all the things.
Yeah.
But it still is not okay.
No.
At the end of the day.
And we're all going down a path, our kids especially are going down this path, that unless we say, hold on, and we all know it. Yeah. Like, we know better, but it's so hard to do better. Yeah. And so this, at least in schools, they will have some time without their cell phones. And then you hear, kids are going to find different ways. And I thought, well, isn't that more of a reason that we have to do this? If they are so compelled to have their phone that they're putting a glue bottle instead of a phone or whatever it may be, like, that tells me it's a bigger problem than we ever could have imagined.
And we can make it hard.
Exactly.
Make it hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of the point. Don't make it so accessible when, by the way, they turn on the smartphone, and that's the biggest issue. It's too accessible. There's too much to see. There's too much you can't turn off, even for adults. Marriages. Last night I had game night with my kids, and my son was waiting for me to get off my phone.
Yeah. Oh, I'm as guilty as anyone. Yes.
And I was like, sorry, buddy. Totally. Not fair. Yeah. Not fair.
Yeah. No, it's...
Put it over there on the counter. You're right. Because we always say when we set the table, it's dinner time or it's game time.
Yeah.
Because you're only getting that hour, those 2 hours. And thank you, buddy, for the reminder. Like, sometimes I mess up too. Yeah. So I love that it's not about the blame. It's about the help gain some control. Like you say, let's change the trajectory of where we're heading. And I know a lot of people will argue that we can't accurately tie the mental health stuff to the smartphone. But I will say,
we can.
Yes.
Can.
Because just statistically, I watched my daughter that was in high school during the COVID shutdown and her mental health deteriorate of not having people. And a lot of families have these stories. Yeah. But then her going back, and the only thing she had was, now I know how to use my smartphone. It's now my attachment to the world. Yeah. It's what I got good at during that time. Right. Because we're working, we're not doing other things. Yeah. So it is a massive problem no matter what aisle you sit in.
Oh, absolutely.
It just is. I'm super grateful. It would have been so much easier to have almost an excuse when my daughter was in school. It's a law.
Yeah.
I mean, it really would have been. Because the argument between the families and the parents and the school and all the things. I remember telling you I got a call from my daughter's junior high that I should get her a smartphone. But it was like, it would have been easier to say, that has my back.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it's hard to make those decisions by yourself.
It is. And I think we didn't know, and it was just this train that just kept going and going, right? Because it started with just flip phones, but that wasn't near, and then the smartphones, and then we started incorporating, okay, well, if they're going to have them, we're going to incorporate it into the classroom, and then everybody needs to have one, and then we just realized,
and now it gets social media.
Yeah, and then it's like, it's like a kid walking in with, back in the day, a boombox and a magazine, and like all of these things that still are not allowed in schools. Yes. But it's all of those things at once in your pocket. And kids are actually, even when they have it on their person, they are distracted, which is like, there's a lot of research around that. And it takes our brains a long time to come back to focus on. Yes. And that's just in the classroom. So we're excited that. And then we're going to focus on reduce cost and no cost school lunches. The threshold of income for parents has not been changed for a long time. And so
that waiver's low.
It's resulting in like a $3 million annual debt every year.
Wow.
And I just learned that in the Alpine school districts, for example, down in Utah County, there were 5,000 families that were sent to collections because of school debt. And so this does affect our
collections?
Children. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I was just in an elementary school about a mile or two from here just last week. And I was with the principal, and she kind of goes around to see who's eating. You know, it's a lower income school, and she found a kid and said, "Why aren't you eating?" And he said, "My mom can't, like, we have a debt on our thing and my mom can't afford it." And she said, "You get up and eat. You're going to eat today." And she said, "I'll go to my extended family and try to raise money for this." And we cannot put that on our principals, right? So how can we even focus on cell phones or reading or math, all of those things, if our children are hungry?
Yeah.
You know, I work a lot in Title I schools, and the teachers and administrators are saying, "Kristin, I cannot teach a hungry child."
Yep.
Think of how it's a human.
Well, they say 1 in 5 children don't know where their next meal is. And I think about even when I was in school and I was transitioning placements, and the only thing that was ever consistent for me was school and eating. And I happen to, I could always fall into that bracket of whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it was still an option.
Yes.
We turned in little tickets back then, but it was still an option. And the only time I could eat and focus, and the only time I could hide things and save them for later for my sister when I got home from school. It was the only place to go do that.
Yeah.
And we spend the most time there.
Exactly.
So
it's mandatory, right? That you go to
Something's
school,
gotta
but
give.
we just have, with inflation and everything that's been going on, it's very, very important. And it's very important that we do it now.
So awesome.
So we're feeling good support around that.
Such
which is
good work.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, the other question that I got as we wrap up is, it seems so silly.
Yeah.
But I get asked the same question for me, so it'll be interesting if you have some new tips for me.
Yeah.
We think of like the busy life, and I get it's all a choice, but it still is a busy life, and the routines that we have to have. Are you super routine driven? Someone wanted me to ask her how routine driven she is. What does she do with her life every day in order to be able to manage the expectations, the responsibility we talked about? That's a real thing. I mean, there's our health. There's our marriages. There's being a mom. I mean, it's heavy and it's a lot. You did a post recently I loved about like owning your motherhood. Yeah. That I thought was super sweet, because we're just not all the same. And God bless us for that. That's okay. Yeah. We get to learn and share from each other. But are there those things that are just your deal breakers every day, or the things that work for you that
definitely
they're happening?
Yeah. There's definite habits. I would say the first and foremost, well, there's probably two, but the first is sleep. If I did not, now I also realize it's a privilege to get good sleep. Not everyone, my mom struggles with, really bad sleep. And so I get it's not always a choice, but a lot of us make a choice to sleep less. We watch Netflix. We're like, oh, but we need me time because my kids take it off from me. And so they're up watching movies and online and scrolling all night and get very little sleep. If I don't get good sleep, I am a basket case. I eat more. My mood shifts. I get 8 hours of sleep as often as possible, and I make it a priority. I will sometimes not go to a concert, or we'll leave a game early, or I know that I want to be home, like getting ready for bed at 10 because I'm going to be up at 6. Yeah. So that is and I'm lucky because Jeremy is the same way. He gets up super early to work out and be ready to go to work and all of that. And so we're both on the same page, which I think helps a ton. Yeah. But going to bed early is something that we prioritize, probably above social, above family. I don't stay up for my teens until, they're home. I make sure that they wake me up when they get home, but I'm not going to be sitting there for 2 hours. It's just, but it's a sacrifice, right? Yeah. So sleep, and then moving my body. I would call it exercise, but however it looks for you. I get up, I put on my clothes, I put on my shoes. There is not a question It is like, what am I going to do? Not am I going to move my body? So today I did weights. Yesterday I did a class, but I get up, I go to my basement, and I move my body in some way, shape or form. And I don't care what that looks like, but that to me is the best mental health, regimen, just endorphins, sweating. I listen to podcasts and things like that, or I'll listen to music, but those two things are non-negotiable in my life. That is just going to happen. Everything else, my day could be off, but if I sleep okay and I've moved my body, I know that I'm not going to be in this downward spiral, because then that can continue. So
when you get sick, you get, all the things that come.
Absolutely. And then you have all this stuff. Then you have life and kids and expectations. But I know that those two things can keep me on pretty even ground mentally, which help a ton.
That's awesome.
Everything else, I like different schedules. I find that even if I've done something for a while, I need to kind of mix it up. So I'm not one, you'll see as I even work with different nonprofits, it's like I'm kind of all over the place because I think my brain does better that way.
For sure.
So in terms of daily schedule, no. Like I love that today is going to look so different than tomorrow. And then the next day is going to look so different. But then I look at Jeremy, who's been running the same company for 10 years and he loves it. And, and so we all operate differently.
He likes that structured routine. And you're like, I like maybe
to mix
tomorrow
it
changes
up.
for me.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
I really
so good.
do.
Well, it's good because you really are all over the place. And in this line of work, you don't know when you're going to get a call to veer and pivot.
Yes.
Every day something's going to come up.
It is so true, actually. And I'm open to that.
Yes. Which I think is what makes the timing and the things that you talk about that matter happen.
Yeah.
Because you do leave yourself open to the universe of, I'm asking to be guided.
Yeah.
Where can I have the most impact?
Definitely.
Every day. And I think being open to that is what also brings it back to you. So
And I do try to take time to be still. I'm not probably inherently a spiritual person, but I try to take time to pray and to take time to be thoughtful for a moment, to try to look to God and say, like, what should I do, or why am I doing this, or so I don't believe it's all me. I think if I'm just following my own, and I've had my own stuff through life that like it isn't probably the best way that I'd want to live. And so I feel grateful for guidance that way. I definitely try to listen when I can.
Well, everybody has their stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody has their stuff. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are. Everybody has their stuff. Is there a favorite project of yours? Is anyone that you work on your favorite? Do you have your baby, your golden?
Yeah. So talking about opening up my life, I've changed things a little bit, and how I'm with my Gathering for Impact, I'm putting structure around my philanthropic and community efforts, which is allowing me to really understand how I want to come in with the Christmas Box House or with the Policy Project, really coming in as a partner and being very, very specific of how I want to engage and how I want to spend my time as my kids are growing up. I have 2 in high school and things like that. So as I've kind of taken some things out of my life, it's opened up my life to more, I would say, inspiration. And what's been really profound lately is something that I think you saw that I did last week, was this Bold and Brave collective. And so what I realized is I've been trying to get women to like come and serve and come to Christmas Box House. And this is how you find a fulfilling life, is giving back, service. And then as I've taken and been able to open my life, and it's like, women also need to heal and listen and figure out what's next. And maybe this service component isn't what's next for them. Maybe it's mental health. Maybe it's nutrition. Maybe it's friendship. Maybe it's, I need to work on my marriage before I can. And so I brought 300 women together. I had 150 on the wait list. I mean, talk about finding a gap.
That's where that,
and these women came so eager. And a lot of them are telling me, and through a survey sent after, is they're looking for a little bit more out of life. They're a little bit lonely. They don't really know what's next for them. They feel like maybe they've lost themselves a bit. Half are working, half are not. So I'm just understanding these women, but they are eager for a little bit more. And that's going to look really different for them. And so rather than me finding what I think the solution for everybody's anxiety, depression, loneliness, what's next in life is this, come help on the Focus Tune Project. It's like, it's going to be different for every woman, but I can bring them together. I can help them connect. And a lot of them are just looking for connection. Yeah. They just want to be with like-minded women or women they can learn from and grow from and connect with. So that has been that is what gets me so excited in the morning. I'm going to keep going with that, but really listen to them and their needs and what's keeping them stuck, and then helping them through that. And not just through me, but through people I know and through, experts and lived experience experts that can talk and in a realistic way kind of teach. And we're all learning and teaching. So that has been a really big aha moment for me, that I can't just keep shoving what brings me happiness, because maybe I've worked through some things to get there, and maybe, women have some different things that they need to work through. I still love giving back. That's still my number one thing, but that's been really fun to see these women get, really rising to their potential. Yeah. Cause there's thousands, hundreds of thousands of them out there in Utah.
And I love that they're, what you said about, not everybody's at a point in their life where they can give service. They might it doesn't mean they don't want to, but most likely they're just not in a position to be able to do that for one reason or another. So it's like, what are those barriers that prevent you from living your full purpose? What does that look like for you today? And it really can be something someone can't relate to, and that's okay.
100%.
It belongs to them, and it's their own heavy lifting that they're working through. But I think being able to talk about it in those safe places you talk about, where they just get to show up and share. And
the other thing, sorry, I have one more thing, because this has been really neat too. I launched this about a month ago, around giving personalities. The other thing that I understood was, once again, like literally this all happened when I kind of opened up a little bit more in time and perceived bandwidth in my life, was that not everyone needs to go to the Christmas box house and work on Christmas presents. I look at someone like my husband, like he is an incredible entrepreneur. So maybe he should be, he mentors other entrepreneurs. There are women. So I came up with this giving personality quiz, and with 9 different giving personalities. So there's crisis averter, there's infrastructure enhancer, someone that cares about parks and trails and community centers in South Jordan or wherever they live. There's change agent, someone that's going to work on policy. There's kindness spreader. We can all, in our homes a little bit more. There's convener gatherer like me, I want to throw a big thing, but then there's a mentor teacher who are really good one-on-one. And so what also happened is this like aha moment of, we all should be giving back in our own unique ways. And I think we see someone like Celeste and we're like, I can never do that. And so I'm not going to do anything.
It's okay, you don't have to.
You don't have to. And hopefully you don't.
Yeah,
right? Hopefully you don't show up in the community like I do. I hope you do it the way that you do it. But this giving personality quiz helps women or men, a lot of different, for anyone, to say, oh, like my giving personality is truth seeker. And so I want to share, like you have, my brother, my struggle with what I went through, and that I want to share a new narrative. I want to, so there's all different ways that we can make impact. And that's what I've realized is I want to help mainly women, because that's who I speak to mostly, but help people understand that they can make impact in unique and different ways, but focus on their strengths, not how everybody else is doing it, because it's actually going to look really different between how you do it, how I do it, and those that are listening. So that's been really fun.
I love that. When I say give in a way that's meaningful to you, I really mean like look and soul search into you, and because it all matters to us, especially as a nonprofit. It all matters. Any way that you give touches us in any way that someone else would give. And I think people just need to also hear that. Give in a way that matters to you. Yeah. Don't make an assumption that I want to see it look a certain way, because I don't. Right. I don't even know what that looks like for you. And there's a reason I don't hire anybody, by the way, that's like me. I don't want a bunch of me's.
Yeah.
I want a bunch of yous, and then we get to learn from each other.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Well, those have been fun.
I'm so proud of you. Is that silly to say?
Oh, thank you.
But I am, because it's just, like we said, everybody has their stuff. And when you share and lift, you share and lift other people. And this podcast deals with a lot of ways in which we make each other feel small, especially ourselves. And when you lift and you give, you can't do that. You can't be in that space and make people feel small.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. All the events that you gather, no one's sitting around making each other feel little.
No.
What are we doing? We're hyping.
Yeah,
we're doing
we're
all things.
lifting,
We're so
for
excited.
sure.
There's like so much excitement. You can't even be in that room together sometimes. Like, it's so awesome. And so I think, for me, give back is obviously a big deal in me and my family's life. But I feel like it's a way to never help other people, including yourself, feel small. And I think that that's just one of the best things we can do.
I love that. Thank you. You are incredible.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for
so much
having
more
me.
than you know.
I haven't said all of the great things about you.
know.
I'm
You
so
know what?
sorry.
We talk about me on the podcast a lot.
Incredible. You are absolutely incredible. I'm better because I know you. I'm grateful that you've welcomed me in and taken whatever I have to give. I've loved getting to know you and watching you live to your full potential. So thank you.
Thank you. Should we talk about the book club?
Yes.
This is exciting.
I'm so excited.
Okay, so join us. We're inviting you collectively to join us on Monday, October 28th.
Yeah.
We decided 7 p.m.
Yeah.
It's going to be here at our donation center, which we will post information about. We will ask you to RSVP. Yes, if you don't have a copy of Garbage Bag Girl, you can get it on Amazon. If you're not a reader, you can listen to it on Audible.
Yeah.
If you don't want the hard or the paperback, but there's Kindle, all the things. So we'll post the details about the event. We'll ask you to RSVP. We'll have some snacks here for you. And we did talk about that it's not just about book club, but it's also about book club and discussion.
Great discussion.
So it's in 6 weeks. You do have time, but if you don't, because you don't get to it, that's okay. We still want you to come and discuss. The book deals a lot with trauma, but it also is a reinforcement of hope and empathy towards others. And we want a lot of discussion around that as well. So
absolutely. You're
we'll
amazing.
welcome you here.
Thank you. It's going to be so fun. Come, bring a friend,
Yes.
bring your mom, bring your sister, anyone you know. It will be an incredible, touching
thank you.
gathering.
I look
So
forward to
we're
seeing
excited.
everybody. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for joining me today on the Garbage Bag Girl podcast. Always remember, you matter. Please subscribe and share this podcast and visit CelesteEdmonds.com to join my mailing list.